Barr, Robert Mueller. We want to talk about that now with Congressman Adam Schiff, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Chairman Schiff, thank you for joining us this morning. I know you're coming to us from San Francisco this morning, site of that state convention yesterday. And I want to start by showing everyone House Speaker Nancy Pelosi speaking at that convention and almost getting drowned out by these calls for impeachment. Let's listen.
The report lays out 11 instances of possible obstruction of justice by the President of the United States.
Now, you've been supporting the Speaker as she holds the line against impeachment, but the pressure is building. Can you hold the line?
Well, look, I think we're going to do what's right for the country. And at this point, the Speaker has not reached the conclusion, and I haven't either, that it's best for the country to put us through an impeachment proceeding that we know is destined for failure in the Senate. Now, that calculus may change if the president continues to stonewall, if the president continues to demonstrate his unfitness for office. There may be little additional cost to going through that process. It is, in a way, even if unsuccessful in the Senate, the ultimate form of censure in the House. But we're not there yet, and I think if it is a close call, close calls go against putting the country through that. We have an important legislative agenda to try to advance. We have important oversight work we can do outside the context of impeachment. And I think at this point that is still the preferred course.
But it could still strengthen your hand against the Department of Justice in court. And opening an inquiry is not the same as reaching a final judgment on impeachment. Why does the evidence laid out by Mueller require at least opening that inquiry?
Well, of course, Mueller didn't say that what he was presenting required impeachment. In the same way, he didn't comment on the question of indictment. And by the way, I think Bill Barr is completely disingenuous in saying that it would have been perfectly fine for Mueller to say the president was a criminal. I just can't indict him. If that's the way Barr feels, then perhaps he should let the Southern District of New York know that they can say individual one, the president of the United States, should be charged when he leaves office. But in terms of the impeachment process, it's not mandated by the Constitution. We can avail ourselves of this when the president demonstrates acts that are high crimes or misdemeanors. It is certainly true, I think, that much of his conduct qualifies for that. But at the same time, we have to recognize that the reality that one party, the Republican Party, has turned itself into a cult of the president's personality and is not likely to act consistent with its constitutional obligations. And we have to figure out in that context, is this the right thing for the country? And I'm just not convinced, not yet, that that's the case.
What might help there is hearing from Robert Mueller before the Congress. Where do things stand with getting his testimony?
Well, I was disappointed to see during his statement the other day such a profound reluctance to testify. Now, I understand that, but I think he has one last service to perform. It's not enough merely to speak for 10 minutes and say, I'm not going to answer questions for the Congress of the American people. There are a great many things that are not in the report. We want to find out what happened to those counterintelligence findings that were sent back to headquarters. What other things did you learn during the investigation that ought to concern us in terms of whether the president is vulnerable to influence from Russia? Does the president still, did you find evidence whether the president still intends to build a Trump Tower in Moscow? Is that why that financial inducement, why the president can't criticize Putin or take adequate steps to protect our elections? There are any number of questions that we have every right, the American people have every need to answer, have answered here. So I hope that Bob Mueller will understand, as painful as it may be and as much as it may subject him to further abuse by the White House, he has a final duty here to perform, like any other witness. And it's my hope that he will do so, and it's my hope that he will do so voluntarily.
And if he doesn't subpoena?
Well, it will be my recommendation, yes. But I hope that is not the case. That will be a decision, really, that we'll have to make collectively and with our leadership whenever there's use of compulsion, because it may lead to litigation. But I would hope none of that is necessary. That's not how this process for Bob Mueller should end. He's a dedicated public servant, and I hope that he'll come and testify voluntarily.
Meantime, the Attorney General's made it pretty clear that he's going to continue this investigation of the investigation. Here he was earlier this week.
Sometimes people can convince themselves that what they're doing is in the higher interest, the better good. They don't realize that what they're doing is really antithetical to the democratic system we have.
He hasn't reached a final judgment, but he's made it pretty clear that he's suspicious something went very wrong at the start of this investigation.
Well, ironically, of course, that statement you heard from Bill Barr is a perfect description of his own conduct. He's willing to cavalierly throw out terms like spying and pretend he doesn't know just how pejorative that term is. He is a smart man and understands exactly how incendiary what his allegation is, and it's designed to be. That's why he is, I think, falling into such legitimate criticism for acting as effectively a henchman of the president. You don't talk cavalierly about intelligence agencies or the FBI spying on presidential campaigns. And given how much he misled the country about Mueller's own report and findings, we can sadly expect that given this power to declassify information now, he will do so in a selective way designed to mislead the country in the president's service. And there may be no opportunity for rebuttal this time. There will be no further Mueller report that will set straight this selective declassification that he may put into effect. And the fact that he will say he doesn't want to speculate about what went on early in the investigation until he knows, but he's willing to speculate that it was spying, tells you all you need to know about how disingenuous he's being with the country.